From the moment you were born, a system was already waiting for you, quiet, invisible, polished like a machine. Not a conspiracy theory, just quiet conditioning. Subtle, institutional, generational. You weren't taught how to think. You were taught how to obey. You weren't taught how to build. You were taught how to wait your turn. You weren't taught how to lead. You were taught how to fit in. They didn't break you with brutality. They numbed you with routine. When you were a toddler, your brain was pure plastic neuroplasticity, wide open. You imitated everything. You didn't need instruction. You needed impression. And what did you get? Don't talk back. Don't run too fast. Don't make a mess. Don't interrupt. Don't be too much. The programming began before memory even formed. You were domesticated, rewarded for compliance, scolded for curiosity, and no one meant harm. Parents were just passing on their own conditioning. Teachers were working within systems they didn't design. Society was simply mirroring itself. But the damage? Real. You learned that approval matters more than truth. That safety is found in sameness. That success is earned by not rocking the boat. What you never learned was who you really are. You were graded for memory, not creativity. Punished for lateness, not inefficiency. Taught to follow schedules, not to design them. Every bell was a cue. Every desk a tiny prison. And behind the illusion of education was the deeper lesson. You are not in control. Raise your hand. Ask permission to go to the bathroom. Wait for the bell to eat. They called it discipline, but it was conditioning. Not to think for yourself, but to wait for direction. And if you resisted, you were labeled difficult, disruptive. But the disruptors, the rule breakers, the ones who colored outside the lines, they were the ones who learned to escape the maze. Most didn't. They stayed in the system, learned the pattern, memorized the rules, and slowly, unconsciously, they became what the system needed them to be. Average, reliable, predictable. You were promised a path, go to school, get good grades, go to college, get a job, climb the ladder, retire at 65, safety, stability, approval. That's the dream, right? But here's the question. Who profits from that dream? You or the system? If you follow that path, who benefits? The employer who gets 40 years of your best energy? The banks who collect 30 years of mortgage interest? The corporations who feed you just enough comfort to keep you from waking up? This was never your dream. It was installed. You were programmed to want it, to feel fear if you step off the track, to feel shame if you don't fit the mold. That's not failure. That's survival instinct weaponized. Try something bold and they'll say you're arrogant. Ask for more and they'll call you greedy. Break the mold and they'll say you're unrealistic. Why? Because you make them uncomfortable. Your courage exposes their fear. Your ambition shines a light on their stagnation. So they pull you down not out of malice but out of reflex. It's the crab bucket. One tries to escape, the others pull him back down. You were conditioned to be one of the crabs. To whisper, who does he think he is? She changed too much. He forgot where he came from. But here's the raw truth. No one who's ahead of you is criticizing your climb. Only those who gave up on their own. You were taught to fear judgment. But most people aren't judging you. They're projecting. And once you realize that the chains start to loosen, they didn't destroy your dreams. They distracted you from them. With entertainment. With food. With 9 to 5s and weekends off. With likes, comments, and infinite scrolling. You were told, don't be too ambitious. Just be grateful you have a job. Maybe next year. And while you waited, someone else built an empire. Comfort is the real sedative. It whispers, settle down. Don't risk that. Why make it hard? But greatness doesn't live in comfort. It lives in friction, in uncertainty, in choosing growth over approval. And you weren't taught how to live there. You were programmed to avoid it. But now you know. The genius of the system isn't in how loud it shouts. It's in how softly it whispers. You were never told you couldn't dream. You were just given dreams that were safe, manageable, dreams you could pursue without disrupting anything. You were taught to want slightly more than your parents had, not to build a kingdom, just to renovate the apartment. They didn't silence your voice. They flooded your life with noise, endless opinions, infinite scrolling, the illusion of choice. You weren't trained to follow a dictator. You were seduced into following everyone. And somewhere in that sea of guidance, you forgot your inner compass. Think about how your day starts. Not with breath or vision, but with a screen. You scroll before you think. Consume before you create. React before you decide. This isn't by accident, it's architecture. Psychological warfare dressed in convenience. Your attention isn't stolen, it's surrendered. And they've built billion-dollar industries on that surrender. You were programmed to chase dopamine instead of meaning, to chase applause instead of truth, to chase distraction instead of purpose. But here's the punchline they never expected. The moment you notice this game is the moment you start to win it. The entire system depends on your unconscious participation. Break the trance, and you break the chain. Why do you think meditation feels so radical now? Why do you think silence makes people squirm? Why is boredom so terrifying? Because in those spaces, your programming unravels. In stillness, your real self returns. The reason you've been taught to fear being alone isn't because solitude is dangerous. It's because solitude is powerful. It's where you remember who you are without the noise. It's where your real values reemerge. And that terrifies the system. Because an awakened individual, a person who knows who they are and why they're here, is unprogrammable. And the system can't profit off of what it can't predict. You weren't meant to be a pawn. You weren't designed to clock in and zone out. You were meant to be a weapon, a leader, a force. But that requires burning down the fake personality you were handed. That mask you wear to keep everyone comfortable. It's a muzzle. It's a cage. It's the reason you're exhausted even when you haven't done much. Because acting isn't tiring. Acting like someone you're not is. So how do you reclaim yourself? Start with your voice. Speak the truth you've been suppressing. Say what you actually mean, not what you think they want to hear. Take off the filters. Drop the fake humility. Reject the performative modesty that keeps you small. That's not virtue. It's programming. And next, disobey quietly. Start creating without permission. Launch the idea, pitch the vision, make the art, build the thing before you're ready, before it's perfect, before they say, it's okay. Because if you wait for validation, you've already surrendered. And if you delay until you're confident, you'll wait forever. Confidence is not a requirement, it's a reward. Most of the people you admire, they started scared. They launched without certainty. They moved with trembling hands. But they moved. The lie they fed you was this: you need to feel ready to begin. But the truth? You need to begin to feel ready. And no one can do that part for you. They didn't just program your habits. They shaped your identity. And they did it by selling you role scripts you were meant to play without question. The smart one, the shy one, the rebellious one, the good kid, the underachiever, the perfectionist. And once you picked a script or had one handed to you, you started shaping your entire life around it. You weren't building a life. You were staying consistent with a label. And the more consistent you were, the more applause you got. But what you didn't notice was that the applause was a leash. It kept you locked in that role. You became terrified to evolve because evolution would confuse the audience. The people in your life expected a certain version of you. And if you shifted, they wouldn't know how to relate. So instead of changing, you played it safe. You performed. You stagnated. They don't have to trap you if you'll trap yourself. You were taught to value reputation over reality, to curate a version of yourself that makes sense to others, even if it doesn't feel real to you. You were handed a mask and told, smile. And now, you can't take it off without causing a scene. But here's the truth. The people who love the mask don't love you. They love the comfort you give them, the predictability, the familiarity. You being true to yourself would disrupt their illusion. So you silence yourself, dim yourself, tame your wildest instincts. Because somewhere along the way, someone said, you're too intense. You're too ambitious. You're too emotional. But too much is only scary to those who have settled for too little. You're not too much. You've just outgrown the room. Let's go deeper. You were conditioned to be afraid of success, not because it's bad, but because it's different. Success isolates. It separates. It forces reinvention. And reinvention feels like death to your social survival brain. Because in the tribe, change used to mean exile. In the tribe, standing out used to mean danger. But you're not in the tribe anymore. You're in a digital world where those who stand out rise, and those who blend in disappear. Yet the fear lingers. You don't fear failure. You fear success with consequences. You fear becoming someone your current circle won't recognize. You fear losing connection. So you sabotage yourself in quiet ways. You procrastinate. You hesitate. You get stuck in loops. Not because you don't know what to do, but because deep down, you're afraid of what will happen if it works. This is the invisible handbrake. And unless you face it head on, you'll live your life with one foot on the gas and the other on the brake. You'll read the books, take the courses, build the plans. But when it's time to leap, you'll flinch. Because leaping means losing your current identity. And that's the final layer of the programming. You were taught to fear becoming new. The system gave you a name, a job title, a personality type, a life plan. And if you start shifting, if you start becoming something else, it feels like betrayal. That's not betrayal, that's evolution. You don't owe your past self loyalty. You owe your future self a chance. You owe that wild part of you, the one who never bought into the lie, a shot at freedom. You don't need to announce it. You don't need to defend it. You just need to be it. Start doing the things your future self is already proud of. Speak like them. Dress like them. Move like them. Make decisions from that identity, not the old one that's trying to stay safe. Because the old you isn't trying to destroy you. It's just trying to survive. But you weren't made to survive. You were made to build, to lead, to provoke, to awaken. They programmed you to stay average. But you were never average. You were just asleep. And now you're waking up. Now that you're awake, what are you going to do about it? Awareness alone isn't enough. Because this world is engineered to make you forget. Every scroll, every algorithm, every ping on your phone is a carefully tuned hypnosis device. It doesn't want you sharp. It wants you numb. It doesn't want you present. It wants you reactive. You'll feel it as soon as you stop moving. That twitch, that craving, that invisible pull to check something. Anything. Even if it's meaningless. That's not just habit. That's the residue of programming. And it's time you delete the script. See, the system isn't designed to fight you with force. It defeats you with convenience. Fast food, fast content, fast dopamine. It whispers, don't think too hard. Don't dig too deep. Take it easy. But ease isn't the goal. Freedom is. You were born with a fire, a drive to build, to explore, to dominate your domain. But they buried that drive beneath 20 years of sit down, shut up, follow the syllabus education. They layered guilt over your ambition. They taught you that standing out is shameful. They taught you that dreaming big is delusional. But here's what they didn't teach you. Your potential is frightening because it's real. You've had glimpses of it. In the moments you moved without fear, in the moments you stopped apologizing for who you are, in the moments you ignored the rules and trusted your instinct and things worked. That wasn't luck. That was you, unobstructed. The truth is, there's a version of you they can't control, a version that doesn't check for permission, a version that speaks before thinking about who it might offend, a version that doesn't flinch in the face of resistance, a version that doesn't just consume but creates. That version is you without the chains. And it's time you came back. Let's break it down. You've been told to be realistic, to follow the rules, to aim for balance. But the people who changed the world weren't balanced. They were obsessed. They weren't liked. They were resisted. They weren't polished. They were raw. You've been told to hustle, to grind, to wake up at 5 a.m. But that's not the point. This isn't about how early you rise. It's about why you rise. The average man wakes up to survive. You wake up to conquer. You wake up to own your fate. You've been told to be humble, but humility doesn't mean you shrink yourself. Humility is knowing your power and choosing when to unleash it. This false modesty you've been programmed to carry, drop it. The world doesn't need you quiet. It needs you awake. Every time you say, maybe later, the system wins. Every time you say, I'm not ready, The programming gets deeper. Every time you wait for the world to change, you strengthen the cage. But not anymore. Because now you know. Now you see it. Now the lies don't land the same. Now the chains feel heavier because you're stronger. So what do? You begin, not tomorrow, not after the next video, now. You turn your pain into fuel, your rage into momentum, your restlessness into creation. You stop editing yourself to make other people comfortable. You stop performing for people who aren't even watching. You stop watering down your truth to fit into their template. You decide right now to make your own. Build your brand. Write your book. Launch your offer. Speak your truth. Move like someone who knows they were lied to. They gave you a script. You're setting it on fire. They trained you to be passive. You're training to be dangerous. They taught you to stay small. You're getting loud. And if this message woke something up in you, don't let it fade. Don't let it be just another good video. Let it be a pivot point. Let it be the moment everything changed. Because it's not about this one script. It's about the movement we're building. A new generation of thinkers, builders, leaders, people who question everything. People who feel the lie and refuse to play along. That's what this is. And if you're here, you're one of us.